All right, everybody. It is Thursday night. It's time for our weekly conversations with Commodores, and I have got a superstar from the 2010 to 2014 seasons. He's out of Stone Mountain, now lives in Atlanta. I know you guys recognize Kenny Ladler. Kenny, welcome to the show, and I appreciate you making some time tonight for us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And when we crossed paths back during the football season, I had been thinking about you and other teammates of yours wanting to get you on the show. So I'm so glad you've got some time tonight. And as you and I discussed, there's nothing scripted here, so we're just kind of off the cuff a little bit. But I always love to learn what I call the origin story. You coming out of your hometown. I know that you were athletic and played all kind of sports in Stone Mountain, but share a little bit about, I guess, life in Stone Mountain. I mean, I know history, I know Civil War, I know Southern history, and Stone Mountain exactly the friendliest of places for most folks. But what was life like for you growing up in Stone Mountain?
Yeah, so growing up, uh I've I've always been in sports growing up. I mean, especially around Stone Mountain. Football, I feel like was the sport that everybody just played. And we played a lot of sports growing up, basketball, baseball, and ran track, even did tennis and karate growing up. But
Oh,
but football was like the sport that like brought out the main athletes of the city of Stone Mountain, and it was a lot of talent that came through, and it really, I felt like, made a foundation for how I grew up in regards of my competitiveness, because there was so much talent around me. Like, you get some guys that are like the big fish inside a small pond.
mhm.
Think of Stone Mountain as like a big lake that has like a lot of big fish swimming around it. You just have your territory where that you're pretty much dominating. So DeKalb County in the whole actually is a part of is a part of it too. So I mean, we have like 18 counties. We're east of Atlanta, and I mean, we were stacked. So we would have to compete across like different parks. Park. Oh yeah. So recreational ball was really big growing up. We have guys from all over the counties, is what I was getting to, that we can compete with, and a lot of those guys that we competed with ended up playing big time college football and also making it to the pros too. So
I was just getting ready to say you probably competed against guys in middle school, and these same guys competed against you
yeah,
in high school and in college, and then
in
on
college.
Sundays as well.
Yeah, that is actual facts, a factual statement. A good friend of mine, Mac Brown, he played with me. His first year of football was like my second year. He was I think we was 5 years old once we started. He ended up playing his first year of football on my team, and then after that, he ended up playing at a different uh a ended up playing at a different park called Central DeKalb, and we began competing against each other ever since we was like young. And we ended up playing against each other in middle school, playing against each other in high school, and then he ended up committing to Florida. He went on to play college football at Florida, and we played against each other every year in college too, until we both got to the league. He ended up getting signed with the Washington Redskins, and at the time I was in Canada playing, and then by the time I came back and signed with the Washington Redskins, I think he had an injury in Minnesota, and he ended up coming back to the Washington. So we ended up becoming teammates
Oh,
again.
how
Like,
cool! That's
so,
cool.
you have stories, and we have like relationships like that start at such a young age. And like I said, it's a high level of talent around the area of Stone Mountain that just continues to show as we progress and gotten older. And you know how hard it is to get to the
Oh,
league too.
and Kenny, it's not just football. The Atlanta metro area, I don't think anyone can say is underrated or under the radar with baseball, basketball, football, now lacrosse. There's just so many athletes that come out of the metro Atlanta area every year. It's really one of the better hotbeds, if you will, in the country for
Right.
really all sports. But Kenny, growing up, obviously you made your mark later in college and in the pros in football. But as a youth, what was your favorite sport? Which one were you the best at before you eventually settled with football?
Oh, hands down, it was football off the jump. I think I was more of a aggressive type of player at a younger age when it
Mm-hmm.
came to my physicality and playing football. Basketball, I was a little too aggressive. I was a great defender, but I was a little too aggressive. I didn't have that like finesse and touch to, just be a great basketball player at the
Were
same
you one of
time.
these guys that got two quick fouls and had to sit the bench for a while before a coach would
I
bring you back in?
I definitely set the tone. We'll say that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And speaking of setting the tone, Kenny, we got a bunch of Commodores that are rolling through, and I got to let you know who's in the house tonight. We got OJ Fleming, we got Kenny Cole, we got Diane and Roy Williams, we got Dexter Daniels who says Ladlow,
Oh yeah, that's my guy.
and we
Dex,
got
what's
some
going
others.
on?
And I'll let you know who comes through. Kenny, when did you hit your growth spurt? When did you start seeing that your height was a real advantage for you in youth sports?
I was a late bloomer when it came to my growth spurt. I
Uh-huh.
I was always athletic, but the height and the size, I was skinny and wasn't the tallest. Like for the longest, my sister was taller than me, and she peaked at like 5'5", and she was taller than me for the longest, like until I got to high school. Like it was crazy. So I think I hit my growth spurt around after my junior year
Oh
because I was
wow.
5'9" my junior year,
Hmm.
and I believe I grew about an inch and a half to 2 inches going into my senior year.
Hmm.
So I think that kind of helped me like with my recruiting because I ended up getting more offers later on coming into my senior year, and yeah, I think I was a late bloomer, and then I grew a little bit taller in college too.
Well, I was going to say, I want to say either I read that or I remembered that you grew even more when you got closer to 19, 20, 21 years of age.
Yeah, yeah.
And Kenny, when was it? When did you get it in your head? When did you start really thinking, playing on the college level and for football is potentially in my future? When did that really hit home with you?
Well, I've always wanted to play in the pros, so I really didn't think about college until I realized that like you got to go through college first before you get to the pros in that regard. So I think around maybe middle school, maybe seventh, eighth grade, that's when I started like taking a liking to college sports
Mhm.
more so than anything. My favorite team growing up was the University of Miami Hurricanes. That was like my dream school growing up. I wanted because they were winning and they were winning championships and putting a lot of people out in the league, and it was a very attractive school to
And at that
want to
and
be
at
like.
that time, Georgia wasn't nearly what Georgia is now, and Georgia Tech wasn't having success. Even those two
Right,
schools were kind of in your backyard. Now
right,
Clemson is not that far, and they were starting to have success
yeah.
back then. Were they part of your process, or was it really just the U the whole
I
time?
was I was stuck on Miami so hard. I don't know what it was, but that was the only school that I really like thought about having envisioning myself to you know to go to as far as college. But I let's see. Yeah, yeah, that was I was stuck on that.
Well,
I had like
I
a
don't
narrow track.
remember. I can't remember, and he may already they Ed Reed and Ray Lewis may already have been in the pros or maybe toward the tail end of their careers. Both of those
Mm-hmm.
guys obviously came from the U.S. to many players. But
But yeah,
were you playing both sides of the ball? Had you settled on a position in high
oh
school?
yeah,
I guess my question where I'm going is this: did you pattern your game after certain players that you wanted to
yes.
play?
So what's crazy about me was I was fixed on playing safety since I was in the seventh grade. Like,
Wow.
and I've watched. Tell you, I watched all the safeties that went to Miami, from
Mm-hmm.
Ed Reed to Sean Taylor
Mm-hmm.
to Kenny Phillips
Mm-hmm.
to Entree Roll, like all those guys were like first round picks and they played my position.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be just like all them guys. So that was my whole like mindset. And I didn't have the frame and whatnot, but the style of play, I wanted to be a hard hitter. I wanted to be a ball hawk. I wanted to just make plays around the ball and be a difference maker. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my whole mindset since seventh grade playing
Well,
safety.
and they what is it? They say it's not the size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight of the dog. And
Right.
I guess that mentality. You tell me if this was part of the process. You're seeing what those guys are doing and the success, and gosh, what a pipeline of players that go from the
Mm-hmm.
to the pros, trying to emulate what they do, but you hadn't hit that growth spurt just yet. But that's what
Right.
I want you to take us to that junior year and your senior year, those last 2 years of high school where you're finding all this success. But before you do, we got some more Commodores. We got John L. Thomas said, "Good to see you, my guy." And
Hey.
we got Dwayne Jones is in the house and a few other guys that are rolling through for you, Kenny. But go to your junior and senior year. You're seeing what these guys are doing, and you're starting to put together your own highlight reel, if you will, by playing hard and trying to emulate them. What kind of success were you seeing on the field of your junior year and then into your senior year?
Well, funny story. Going into my junior year, I was on the brink of still playing. I was on the brink of not even being a starter at my school yet because I had two seniors in front of me
Mm-hmm.
um, that were projected to start at Stevenson. I went to Stevenson High School, so we're known for putting out a lot of talent at our school. We have put numerous amount of guys in the pros alone, and hundreds in college. So we mentality coming in was I gotta get on that field and I gotta like put together a highlight tape so I can be seen by colleges going into my senior year. And prior to that first preseason game we had, I was a backup. And then the week of the preseason game before it started, the starting safety rolls his ankle at practice. And that gave me my opportunity to show that, you know, you can be a starter on varsity. Here's your opportunity. So from that point, first game of the season, we going up against defending state champions, Tucker High School. They got a lot of big time recruits too coming in
Mm-hmm.
to play, uh, like James Davis. They had a former NFL player, AJ Bouye. He was over there too. They had a couple guys over there, but I had displayed my talents by making a impact early, catching an interception the first game I was out there, and
Hello.
solidify in that, like, all right, he belongs out there, and made it real hard for the coaches to bring in the other guy back once he returned from injury. So upon then, it became like a rotation once he returned. But at the same time, I'm still making plays out there once I was on the field. And then transitioning to my senior year, I really made sure that I hit the weights, because now we get to go on campuses for junior days and stuff like that. So I want to look past the eye test. So that was a big point of me of hitting in the weight room. So I got to credit my strength coach from high school, Reggie Ball Sr. He really had been my secret weapon to like developing my body for my recruiting process, and making sure that I had that foundation for once I get on the college campus. I know exactly the work that I put in is going to help me compete at a early age.
Kenny, I want to step back away from high school sports, and I want to talk about a little bit about the school itself, Stevenson. I want to talk a little bit about your neighborhood and things like that. So many of us during the course of our journey have individuals like Coach Barr, who you just mentioned, who help us along the way. But it all starts at home. You mentioned your sister as one family member. From an academic standpoint, was it self-motivated? Did you have somebody at home saying, we got to get these grades before we get the field, those kind of things? What was getting you along the way on your journey academically?
Oh yeah. So it was definitely my mother was definitely a outlier with making sure my academics was straight, because I remember my my father, he was actually incarcerated once I was in the third grade, and he was going from a third grade all the way until I was a sophomore in high school. So it was just my mom and my three other siblings in the house, and my mom had to work like double shift, and she was in school to become a nurse prior to. So I had to really like step up and be like the man of the house at a very young age. But for some reason, once I hit middle school, it was like, I don't know, it came over me, but I wasn't doing well academically. And then my mom had, sat me down from playing football for like a week, because my grades had came back from my progress report, and I had like 4 Fs on my progress report. And she was like, "You're not playing football until you get your grades together." So, and that was back in sixth grade. So from that point on, I was like, when she took that away from me, I was like, I can't have like not have football. So I got to do my work. So that really just forced me to like get that together before I lose, the sport that I love to play.
Kenny, we all have those moments in our life that are those pivotal moments that we never forget, good or bad, that just make such an impression on our memories. And the way you were describing this just now, I'm envisioning you thinking about that moment when you had that conversation with your mom, even as a sixth grader, so many years ago, that you can so easily recall. That was one of those moments for you that kind of pivoted you to the next level of where you needed to be, because it sounded like it was a wake up call, if you will. And
Yeah.
when our moms lay down the law, we know there's repercussions if we don't follow
Right.
instructions.
I can't exactly. It's like I can't let that be the reason
Yeah.
that I can't play football. So I did take my studies more seriously, and I actually learned how to actually focus better with that, which I think in all helped me focus better with my mental game on the field too. Um,
I was just getting ready to say, and we're going to get to the recruiting and coming to Vanderbilt, and I don't want to skip ahead, but by the time, when we hit Vanderbilt's campus as freshmen, so many things are thrown upon us. And it sounds like you started learning how to prioritize in middle school, where a lot of us, it hits us for the first time when we get to campus as a 17 or 18-year-old freshman. Sounds like you had some of those tools you had been perfecting and working on it all through middle school and through high school. Is that a fair assessment? Were you prepared in that way by the time you got through high school?
Absolutely. I was the first person to graduate high school and enroll in Vanderbilt mid-year in January as a freshman. And I had my mind set on that early on in high school because I was that focused on like getting on the field as early as possible so that I can put myself in position to be seen so that I can eventually play on Sundays. But I definitely had I had a study, it's like studying the past people that came before you, and I saw like people that graduated early tend to play early as freshmen. So I was one of those guys where I was in class in a computer room, and I'm on Rivals, and I'm looking up different recruits that's classes ahead of me, and that are already in college, and it's like, what's the correlation between this guy and playing as a freshman? And it's like, oh, this guy graduated and enrolled early so he can get acclimated to college and spring practice, strength training, and everything like that. And there's no wonder why he's on the field early as a true freshman. So I was like, I want to be a guy like that at the school I go to.
How'd you get that idea? Because back then in 2010, that
It
was not
wasn't
the
common.
norm. That was not common.
It wasn't common, but like I said, I was definitely studying.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the computer and I would be studying my competition across the nation, but I would also study the people that came before me. So I'm looking at guys like Janoris Jenkins that played the true freshman at Florida, University of Florida, the Julio Jones that played as a true freshman at Alabama. All these guys had graduated high school early and they participated in spring
Mm-hmm.
and played as true freshmen. So I saw that as a opportunity for
Mm-hmm.
me to increase my value to get in get on the field early by taking care of my business now while I'm college high school and getting on that campus and getting myself used to how a college athlete is supposed to be, and eventually I would put myself in position to play as a true freshman. So that was my whole mindset from high school.
I don't know if you appreciated it then. I hope you appreciate it now and over the years, how uncommon that mindset truly is, considering in sixth grade your maturity dealing with mom laying down the law and the next 5+ years of you preparing yourself for the next level. It just sounds like if you're that organized at that age and had that mindset, that was quite uncommon and probably very attractive to the schools who were recruiting you. And that's what I want to ask briefly about that. I know Coach Caldwell was the coach in 2010. Was he the coach who started recruiting you because he only had the 1 year as the head coach? Or was it during Coach Johnson's tenure that they started, you were on their radar?
Yeah, so Coach Johnson was the one that recruited me. Coach Kitchens was my recruiting coordinator, and he had brought in a lot of guys around like the Stone Mountain, DeKalb County area. Like he brought in Warren Norman too.
Mhm.
And that was also somebody that I saw. I'm like, okay, this is somebody from my area that, and he played as a true freshman and was all SEC freshman. So I I definitely had saw that like, okay, these guys like guys. I saw it as, okay, these guys like guys from my area and they give them opportunities. So, I could see myself being at a school like that, it gave me a little more inspiration. But Bobby Johnson, he definitely gave me my opportunity to come in early because I was on the fence and I was real adamant on like coming into school early. But he was telling me in the recruiting process that like, hey Kenny, we never done this before. We have to like
Mhm.
make a lot of adjustments to try and do this, but we don't know if we can do it. So at that time, I was also getting recruited by South Carolina, and I was like, and they're trying to get me to come over there. They're like, look, we got a spot for you open. Your roommate gonna be Connor Shaw, and like we just whenever you're ready. So at that point, it was like pivotal that I was able to get in early because, like I said, my mindset wanting to get in early is wanting to play and put myself in position.
Kenny, was your mom worried about you going to school early, or were you guys kind of in sync about that plan?
Oh yeah, we was all on the same page. We was on the same page. Plus, it helped with my sister also being in Nashville too because she
Mhm.
went to Tennessee State. She
Mhm.
just she was just in her freshman year too, so it was an easy transition for my mom to that.
I was going to say she helped with the recruiting process. If
Yeah,
your
yeah,
sister's
my sister,
across
my
town,
sister, yeah, my sister definitely will take credit and
mhm.
say that like I'm the reason why you came to Vanderbilt too.
But I did
So,
not know that you were the answer to that trivia question. Who was the
yeah,
Vanderbilt student athlete to reclassify and come in early in 2010?
yeah, I made
Now we
history.
know. Now we
That
know.
was the first one, and then the other guys started coming in
Yeah.
after that.
And now it's so commonplace. You're such a trendsetter. You should have trademarked that somehow.
Yeah,
I got Kenny
now
Ladler here with us, coming out of Stone Mountain, Georgia. He ends up on campus in 2010 and makes an
17
immediate
years old.
makes an immediate impact. What was it like? You get on campus and 2 months later, you're in spring training. You're working out with these guys. You're getting used to college life. You're figuring out your books, your social, and your football. But you got spring training, a few weeks or a mere couple of months after you get to campus.
It yeah, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie. I had a lot of anxiety coming in because the unknown,
Mm-hmm,
the looking around, figuring out where to go.
mm-hmm.
Everybody's kind of already on their schedule, and I'm just like asking questions and looking around, um, getting to know my teammates, and just being a new student in a new environment. I mean, I was culture shock for me. It was a culture shock for me. I came from Stone Mountain where it's 90% of the population it looks like me, and now I'm in this campus and it's like it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was an adjustment for me.
And you
As far
didn't
as
come in with the recruiting class. You came in, you were the recruiting class at that time.
right,
The other
right,
guys didn't come in for another 8 months. So
right.
how did you find your friend group or who to hang with at that time? Or did you?
I feel like I feel like I was a well-rounded individual. I felt like I was just hanging out with, I was finding my niche, but I was hanging out with pretty much a lot of different people. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I had eventually gravitated towards people that I gravitated towards the people that were on the freshman campus at first. So guys like Eric Samuels, Warren Norman. Who else was it? Who was
It'll
who
come
else?
to you.
Eddie Foster. Well, not I was around Eddie, but not too much. But the Zach Stacy's, the Blake Sutherlands, and gosh, it's just a lot of freshman guys that I was around. That was
And were most of them from the South?
yeah, most of them from the South too. So that would make sense.
So it was the guys who had just come in the previous August, the previous school during that same school term, just a few months earlier.
Right, those are the guys that was around for the most part prior to getting towards the team, and
Sure.
like once we all go our separate ways, I'm probably going with guys like that.
And how weird was it for you to go from Coach Bobby Johnson, then to Robbie Caldwell, then to James Franklin, all within a year or
Oh
so,
yeah,
a calendar year?
yeah,
I mean, it's a lot of guys, and I'm not trying to compare the current times because it's crazy in college ball now. Anybody go anywhere, but it was not hugely uncommon if a player is going to leave, or excuse me, if a coach is going to leave. Sometimes a lot of players follow him. I don't think that was the situation with Coach Caldwell, but then Coach Franklin comes in, and it's a whole new world, a whole
yeah.
new culture, a whole new mindset. And kind of take us through a little bit of that, because your class or your years, you've got the distinction of having three different coaches within that
That's true.
short time period, and you're part of a group of a very select group that played in three bowl games during your tenure. Not many Commodores can say that, that's for sure. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But the transition to Franklin, I guess, is where I want to go, Kenny. Was that
Okay.
was that tough? Was that Share a little bit about that? What was going on in the locker room and at McGugan when Franklin came in?
Everybody was that was the hot topic, and everybody was trying to figure out who are we gonna get as the head coach. I was hearing a whole bunch of different things, but we ended up getting Franklin, and we didn't know what to expect, honestly. But I know once we had that first meeting with Franklin, it was one I'll never forget.
Take
Cause
take us in that room for those of us who didn't have that experience. What do you remember?
I remember we was in the meeting room, and everybody's just waiting to see who this guy is. We saw pictures of him online, but now we're about to meet him in person for the first time, get ready for winter workouts and winter off-season programming. And he comes to the room, comes to the front of the room, he looks at everybody, and he just got this like super laser like focused look, and he's like starts yelling at us, like starts screaming to the top of his lung. Well, he's not screaming, but he's like commanding, like in a commanding voice. He's like, "Tell your families this is the last time y'all going home for Christmas. Like for the rest of your time here."
Mm-hmm.
And then he repeats it again, and then he says, "Like we're gonna be out here, like making exciting plays, having like great energy from the crowds. We're gonna be." He was just giving his vision on what we were gonna do, and we're gonna be how we're gonna be competing throughout that whole meeting, and how hard we're gonna work. And everything like that. So it was a very motivating meeting to say the least. And
Kenny, from others who were in the room who've described it,
mhm,
he set the tone from the first
definitely.
meeting on of expectations. Now, I want your perspective. I've heard it from a few others.
Hmm.
Was there any doubt, and I'm only asking about you, was there any
Hmm.
doubt whether you were going to stay with the program or transfer at that point?
Oh no, I was bought in from the jump. I mean, as soon as I made my commitment, I was bought in to Vanderbilt,
Mhm.
and I was bought in on making a difference
Mhm.
here too, because I felt like we had the guys around to do it. You
Mhm.
know, if I didn't feel like we didn't have the guys around to do it, maybe that would have been a consideration, but I didn't have no consideration of even like transferring at all.
You know, and a lot of guys echo that same sentiment because they're looking around the room and they know who's in the room from a talent standpoint, from a commitment standpoint, from a teammate standpoint. And then you add in this dynamic coach who gets your attention from the jump. Because if you think about this, in '09 or '08 was the bowl team, the Music City win over Boston College, Coach Johnson. That
Mhm.
was the '08 season. '09, they go 2-10. 2010, as you know, 2-10.
And yep.
2011, things are starting to turn 6-7.
Hmm.
And that last, you go into that's your first bowl game. We lose to Cincinnati, close one, 31-24. But now you're coming into what would this be, your third season or your third season,
Yep.
fall of 2012. And the first two games don't go so well. I know you remember this, a loss at South Carolina and a loss against Northwestern.
But did you see those games?
I saw the first one. I didn't see the second one.
The first one was crazy.
Yeah, those were close losses.
Hmm.
Could have been wins.
Right.
And you guys take out your frustrations on Presbyterian. That's a huge win, 58-0. But then you lose to Georgia, big loss.
Yeah.
But then it starts a run that only had one more loss the rest of the season, and that was a close loss to Florida. So I bring this back up. Obviously, it culminates in the 9-4 season and a win against North Carolina State. The mindset, the confidence, the adrenaline had to have just been off the charts the second half of the season. So, from your standpoint, talk about your performance on the field. Talk a little bit about what was it like being a Commodore during that time period.
Oh, it was a great time. I mean, we had high expectations for ourselves because we knew we put the work in to deliver those results. So once we have close games like that against nationally ranked teams, it's not by coincidence or surprise to ourselves because we actually felt like we could dominate the team, the opponent across from us, and we showed, you know, we showed flashes of doing so. We just didn't put it all the way together to complete the mission. And every time we did that, it just left a taste in our mouths to like, there's more that we can do. We just got to capitalize on a moment when it comes. So every time we had like a bad loss like that, it's 24-hour rule. We go over it the next day and then we flush it out and we get ready for the next opponent. And we just had that next step mindset. We didn't hang our hats too low, and we kept chopping wood every time the next opponent was up.
Kenny, that 7 game win streak is one of the longest win streaks in Vanderbilt history in 50 years. And these wins, you guys weren't just beating people, you're beating the snot out of them. You're beating them by 20, 30, 40 points. Obviously, that win against Tennessee was sweet, that 41-18, just butt kicking. Then you
Mm-hmm.
beat up on Wake Forest, and you beat up on North Carolina State. You go into your final season, 2013, but then a heartbreaking game against Ole Miss. And I remember that game very vividly.
Yeah, that one still hurts. That one
Jordan,
should have.
yeah, Jordan Matthews was on a few weeks ago, and it still stings him as well.
Yeah,
Jeff Scott run just was a heartbreaker.
yeah, that one should have been a 10-win season because we never lost to Ole Miss. You know that before that game, we never lost to Ole
Yeah,
Miss.
yeah.
Even with the 2-10 season, we still beat Ole Miss. So,
Where were you? Let's get off the field a little bit.
uh,
Where were you from an academic standpoint going into the 13 season? Where were you from a mindset of the next level, wanting to play in the league? What was going on off the field for you? On the field, you were producing incredibly. You were decorated through your career, particularly your senior year. You had some phenomenal plays, memorable plays. People knew who you were on the field. That was, you didn't sneak around on anybody at this point.
yeah.
Off the field, where were you academically? Where were you from a mindset of the league being a potential possibility?
I was definitely from a mindset academically graduate by the end of fall so I can get ready to prepare myself for the next level. For spring, I won't have to worry about completing any classwork or courses or anything like that. So Miss Elizabeth was my counselor. Elizabeth Wright was my counselor at the time. So she had me on track with making sure that I had the amount of courses and credits I needed to take going into my senior year so that I can be ready to graduate. And as far as getting ready for the senior year, it was go time going in there. I wanted to make sure that I created enough splash plays to make myself a a valuable pick to be selected in the 2014 draft. So I wanted to continue to do what I do with preparing myself, but this is the last go around. So we're gonna go out and we're gonna go out hard. So I got around, my guys like Jordan, Andre Howe, Carl Butler, uh, Jonathan Krause, all all my all my dogs that we just work and grind hard around each other. We came together and we just push each other. I think I think it was just the culture we had around each other that really propelled us, and it showed on Saturdays. So
And it later showed on Sundays. I don't know if you guys called yourself the Sunday Crew, but all those names right there,
yeah,
plus many others from
yeah.
very talented 11, 12, and 13 teams. A lot of you guys made it into the league. I want to ask you, you have a lot of confidence as an athlete. You have to have it to be successful. We know that.
Right.
Some guys are more reserved and they're just going to show you how they do. Other guys are a little more vocal, a lot of rah rah. That's how they get themselves ready. Where did you fall in that camp of getting ready on a Saturday? Were you one of the vocal leaders, or were you more of the, hey, I'm going to do what I do and you just follow my lead kind of a guy?
I think I was in college. I think I was more of a vocal, not vocal, but I think I was more of a reserve like leader in a sense in college. I feel like I've matured more as I got to the professional level
Mhm.
to be more vocal. And I think that was just being around certain vocal leaders that kind of taught me in a sense how to do that. But in college, I think I was more reserved guy. I'm gonna go out there, do my thing, show you know, show my talents, make sure that I do my job, so that my teammates can depend on me and count on me that I'm doing my part and make a difference for the team. But I feel like as I've progressed as a pro, that's when I got more vocal
Mhm.
to be a vocal leader.
It's one thing, as you mentioned earlier, to jump from being a big fish in a pond in high school to the college. That's one transition, but it's a whole different story from the stories that I'm told on this show to go from even the SEC. Some call it the third conference, going from the SEC into the professional ranks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of skipping a little bit, but you end up signing as an undrafted free agent in 2014 with the Bills. And that transition, did you feel you were prepared from the Vanderbilt level, from those coaches, from that experience? Did that prepare you at all? Or was it the learning curve was just so steep in getting a handle on the pro game?
Yeah, no. So if I can be honest, it was definitely it was a different ball game once I got to the league. It was a lot of stuff that you think you prepared for, and then you get there, and now it's like,
And
okay,
then you got to
I
deal with
haven't
Percy
seen it.
Harvin.
Yeah,
And everybody
Percy,
like him.
Percy Harvin, crazy story. Percy Harvin got me hurt my rookie year. Actually, I
Oh,
had uh I had tackled him on the kickoff and broke my forearm. So third game as a rookie put me out for the rest of the season.
I didn't know that. I didn't bring him up for any
That's
particular
crazy that you
reason.
mentioned Percy Harvin.
Well, I'm
But
just
Percy
thinking
Harvin,
of guys who were fast receivers in the league at that time.
yeah,
And he's the first one that came to mind.
yeah, he was one of the greatest receivers that I feel like came through college football.
Yeah.
But
And I
definitely
want to
runs
say,
like a running back.
yeah, but wasn't it maybe migraines were one of the things that really got him out of the league, among other things?
Yeah,
He suffered
yep.
from migraines, but man, when he was on, he was kind of the predecessor to me and faster or had more moves than Tyreek Hill. And I
Yeah, he
that's
was he was definitely a dynamic athlete, and he had the strength and the tenacity to back it up. So
well,
definitely,
and being an undrafted player adds another level, another hurdle for you to be able to make rosters. And Kenny, you played for another 6 or 7 years, maybe to 2021. Please tell
mhm,
me if I'm wrong. But for you to stick around at different organizations in Canada and in the NFL, that speaks volumes for not only your athleticism, but what you were willing to do for your team. I'm thinking right now, look at Trent Sherfield, undrafted. He's been in the league 6 years,
mhm.
doing all kind of things. But my point in being in saying this is it's a real tribute to your character, to your athleticism, to your professionalism. What do you think allowed you to stick around as many years as you did?
I think perseverance, faith, not giving up on myself,
Mhm.
and also just hard work. Working once you don't know if you're gonna get an opportunity, but you're still working towards that opportunity and um, seizing the moment helped too. I feel like once I was out, after I had got cut, after my rookie year, that really had put it really put me in a place of like a depressive state, because I done worked my way all the way to this point, and now it's like nobody's calling. I don't have any clue if I'm gonna get another opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
because nobody's giving me one. So I'm like feeling sorry for myself, but then I'm like, I gotta create an opportunity, because I know I can play on Sundays. People just, they're not giving me my respect that I deserve. So I felt like once I went up to Canada, it was personal, and I had the mindset like I did once I was younger
Mm-hmm.
to like graduate early. I had the mindset to like not play around with my competition up here. I'm trying to get back to the league. So my whole mindset while I was in Canada was like, this is just my opportunity that I'm creating for myself to get back to playing on Sundays.
It was all business, it sounds like, for you at that time, and personal.
Yeah, very much so. And it showed too, because I went on to become a CFL All-Star up there,
Mm-hmm.
made most outstanding defensive player of the year for my team up there, and eventually got to re-sign to the league, and that's when I signed back in 2018 with the Washington
Mm-hmm.
Redskins at the time, or Commanders.
Kenny, we've got a few more minutes, but I always want to go into a subject that can be a little touchy for some, but for all of us, we have to retire at some point or another. Either we run out of eligibility and we graduate, or we retire, or we get hurt and injury causes us to stop. And but up to that point, whatever it is in our journey, we've been
Mhm.
part of a team, we've been part of a regiment, we've been part of a group that we've identified with since we were 5 years old, or whenever we
Right,
started into sports. And as young as you were, 5 or 6, you played sports for 25 years.
right.
When it came time for you to transition out of professional football and go into the next phase of life, how did you deal with it? How did you cope with it? Was it tough on you?
Oh yeah, it was so hard. I don't even know how to describe that feeling, but I definitely had to go to therapy to like just cope myself through
Mhm.
what like is happening. And
Mhm.
and you know, figure out how to almost reprogram myself, because it's like it's been that way for so long. You have to kind of like shift your mindset, because these things don't happen forever at the same time, even though it's like we know it doesn't, but we can't think like that while we're in it, because then it takes away the work ethic and the passion behind working it.
Yeah.
So which can take away how you play. You might not die for that interception, or you might not, hit somebody just because that it's all coming to an end. So you kind of just kind of have to separate yourself and make a different. You have to make a different direction to achieve something and work towards something like you did in football.
It's almost like reprogramming your mindset, reprogramming your brain,
Yeah.
because you truly are going from being part of a bigger organization and being part of that as your identity. And
Right.
look, I've not ever been in your shoes from a professional standpoint, but time and time again, guys on the show say that you really have to kind of flip the switch in your brain that now I'm working toward other types of goals and other types of things. Kenny, how did you, even now, 3 or 4 years after you've retired, how do you keep that competitive spirit? How do you quench that need for competition? Do you exercise? Do you find other outlets these days that fits a busy schedule? I know you work in logistics and you travel and you're on the move, but how do you deal with those things when July and August come around and in the past it was time to go to camp or time to do
Yeah,
what you do to get ready for the season? Your body probably starts to still even feel it, but
yeah,
how do you deal with it now?
I do feel it. I feel it even once I go to I went to a preseason game probably 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and I had to leave the game
Mm-hmm.
because I was feeling so. I think I was feeling triggered because it was the last game, and I was like, "This is when people get cut," and it
Yeah.
just made me feel all type of like
Took
bad
you
again.
took you back to some other
Yeah,
times. But
yeah,
and I don't we don't have to stay in this area. We really only have 1 or 2 more minutes
hmm
together. But when you and I crossed paths this fall at I think it was the Auburn game on
hmm
campus, and they brought back one of the bowl teams that you were part of. What and here's where I want to go with this. You get to see Jordan and all your teammates from back then, and guys you probably hadn't seen that often, or maybe some of them you hadn't seen since you left campus. But what was it like falling back in and hanging with those guys over the weekend? Because when I saw you guys before I said hello to you, man, you guys were cutting the fool. I mean, y'all were
yeah.
cutting up, and I mean that no disrespect, but y'all were having a good.
No, yeah, yeah. That was one of the best weekends I think I had all last year. That had to be top five best weekends. Seeing everybody, it's been almost 10 years, and
Yeah.
it was 5-star treatment from Vanderbilt. First off, putting on that weekend for us, and giving us our flowers and showing us a good time for the work that we've put in for the university, and just reconnecting with the guys that we went to battle with was it was a joy to see, how everybody's doing in life, and also just to meet with other people that's helped us along the journey, from the staff members to the training staff, to everybody. It was just an awesome experience, and then to connect with people that we haven't gotten to meet. Like I've connected with you, and a lot of different people that can expand my network, and that appreciates the journey that we all came across. So it was a great feeling.
It was, and I remember that weekend there were a bunch of the pioneers, the early African American athletes who came in the '60s and '70s, and there was the Dennis Harrisons and the David Culleys and Rod Gurley and all those guys were there, and I saw them interacting a little bit with the I'm going to call you guys the younger generation. I'm kind of in the middle, but
Hmm.
just connecting the different generations of Commodores at events like that tailgate that they do. I think that's just so important because I saw lots of smiles. I heard lots of laughter. Now, some of the stories may or may not still be true because you know how those get stretched. But,
Right.
you're just thinking about that now and it's bringing a smile to your face. But I got to ask you in closing, are you still on any group text with some of your teammates from the Vanderbilt days? And if you are, how quickly does something funny pop up in those group texts when you guys are chatting?
Yeah, I am. I'm still in a group text with my guys. We It the conversations just changed over the years. Now guys like Jordan have kids.
Bunch of
Um,
bunch of old men approaching their
yeah,
30s. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like this.
Heaven forbid you get to your 30s.
Yeah, it's a little different conversations, and whatnot now. But
Don't you start talking about how your back is bothering you and your knee is locking up, because then you really are getting to be an old man.
oh man, we ain't gonna talk about it. But I
All
know
right,
we
I gotta
feeling it.
see. I gotta see. You got any of those sideways fingers that all you NFL guys end up? Jordan's got two of them that just make weird turns. I see
Nah,
points there, but
mine,
you look
mine.
okay.
I had a little, yeah, just a little. What's it called? A little dislocation, but
Uh huh.
it's not too abnormal. This hand fine, but this one, it's
Yeah,
a
don't you?
little.
Hey, don't you blame that on a pickleball accident or anything like that, and then they really will call you an old dude. Guys,
Right.
I got Kenny Ladler, who was in the 2010, 2013 teams, three bowl games, played in the pros for several years, and I'm just fortunate to get to know him a little bit. Met him this fall, always knew who he was, and I'm so pleased that Kenny, we've had a little bit of time tonight to share your journey. So man, I sure appreciate meeting you, and I'm glad to call you friend, and thank you for sharing some of your story tonight.
No problem. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And guys, it's guys like Kenny, Rashard Lang, Jordan Matt. Every week we have somebody else who's helping to share the oral history. Where that's what we're doing here. We're telling the oral history conversation each week about our program. And we've been doing this for coming on 4.5 years. We're about 180 deep into this. And we got a whole bunch of guys lined up all the way through the next 3 months right now. So please keep coming back each week. Please keep coming into our Facebook group. And before I forget, Kenny Cole will get mad at me. February 23rd, which is a couple of Fridays from now, he's hosting Coach Lee, part of the staff, some of the NIL collectives, and the Huntsville, Alabama uh, Vanderbilt alumni group are all getting together at Jill and Kenny's house. They've graciously opened their house. They're going to have a great spread. We're going to meet with the coaches and just have a great night of Vanderbilt football. And I'm sure Coach will enlighten us more about what's going on. But if you hadn't RSVP'd, if you hadn't RSVP'd, get with Kenny, get with me, and we'll get you on the list. So thank you again, Kenny, for your time tonight. It has been my pleasure. And you guys just keep anchoring down.
And good now. Hello.